Hello and welcome back to my channel, and this time with a new kind of video. Usually I just show off my builds, but by doing so I never really get to explain much about how or why I build certain things. And that's where this video or videos like this come in. Videos where I can explain to you all everything I deem important about a chosen aspect of Valheim. And if this will become a series, you might call it something along the lines of tips and tricks or beginner's guides. Though it is my goal that also the more experienced players can find some value in these videos. For now, let's just stay with something building related, and let me tell you all you need to know about base defense in Valheim. Now, before I tell you how to effectively defend a base, you might ask yourself what such defenses are for, and what the dangers that you might need to defend against even are. These are the most basic enemy spawns you will face during your playtime. Just simple enemies roaming the different biomes and attacking whatever player or base structures they come across. When building a base, you want to create a little safe haven for yourself. A secure place to store your things, craft items and just rest. So keeping random enemies out should be a priority. Now, what kind of defense is necessary to achieve this depends on the biome, because the more difficult biomes obviously also have the more dangerous enemies roaming around. So while in the meadows you will mainly have to look out for some boars and greylings, in the plains you will have to defend against fewlings and deathsquitoes. Though it should be noted that even the meadows will get somewhat more difficult as the game progresses, because some enemies from the later biomes can also spawn there after you've defeated certain bosses. And lastly, I also want to point out that during the night there will be more enemy spawns with more dangerous enemies than during the day. Though, if you are in the base already, just go to sleep. It's quite a simple defense against nighttime spawns. The next danger you will be confronted with are raid events. Such raids can occur when the player is close enough to a few base structures, which, for the purpose of this video, you definitely are. Once a raid starts, you will get a message and an area will be highlighted on the map, in which the enemies will spawn and start hunting you and your base structures. Now, you could run away, but for the raid to end, you will need to stay in the highlighted area for the raid's duration, which, depending on the raid, can be around 1 to 3 minutes. During this time, the enemies will continuously respawn, so you can't just simply and immediately overwhelm them. This means you have to defend yourself for some time, and only after you get the message that the raid has ended, you can go out and clean up the rest of the enemies. As for the different raids, well, I'm not going to go through the whole list here, since there are about 15 as far as I know. But there are a few general things to say about them. First, there are what you might call the boss's armies, where the next boss you will face sends his goons to stop you. These raids will stop occurring once said boss is defeated and then get replaced by the next boss's army. And then there are raids that require you to kill a specific enemy first. So, as an example, after you've defeated your first troll raids might appear. This is also true for the mini-bosses added by Hildia's request. Another thing to note about raids is that they are generally not limited to a specific biome, but can appear anywhere as long as their requirements are met. Building good defenses can make raids far more manageable. This way you and all your stuff can be relatively safe behind cover, and after the raid has ended, you can go outside and clean up the rest of the enemies if need be. The alternative, of course, would be to just run outside immediately once a raid starts and try to lure the raid team away from your important structures. That, however, is obviously a far greater risk. Trust me, I had to do that quite a few times when I got surprised while building. So let's just do the smart thing whenever possible. And now that that's out of the way, how do you build your defenses? And let's just start with the most basic structure, that being wood structures, more specifically stake walls. To build them you only need wood, so in other words you can basically build them as soon as you have your first workbench. What differentiates them from normal wooden walls is for one the durability, since they can tank more than double the damage compared to the regular wall, and they don't take damage from the rain, so you won't need to build a roof over your palisade. So building a stake wall around your base perimeter is a very cheap and yet effective way to defend against Valheim's dangers. If you want, you can also be creative and add platforms, towers or walkways behind the walls, so you have a place to go up and shoot at incoming enemies. Though do keep in mind that some foes, especially trolls, can hit things through the walls. That means the area directly behind the wall isn't necessarily safe. So, just to be sure, always leave some room between the defensive wall and your actual important structures. Now, as you progress through the game and you unlock more and more structures, you will also unlock more possibilities for defense. The most basic ones are simply walls with different materials. The most direct upgrade is the Dwerger Stake Wall that you can unlock in the Mistlands, which is just an improved version of the standard stake wall with higher durability. You can of course also build walls out of stone or black marble, since these materials are also quite durable and weather resistant, but they will need quite a bit more resources to build. Beyond simple walls, you will also unlock different kinds of more specific structures. There are, for one, sharp stakes and Dwerger sharp stakes that, believe it or not, deal damage to enemies that walk into them, and there are traps. These traps can be armed and will damage the first creature that walks over them, though be careful, they can also hurt players. These stakes and traps can be useful to improve choke points in your defense, or you might spread them out in front of your walls as an extra layer of defense. Another kind of structure, something quite unique, is the ballista, an automated turret that shoots everything in front of it. That way you don't even have to take out your bow, just put some of these ballistas on your walls and enjoy the show. However, do be careful around them, since once they are loaded, they will really shoot at anything in front of them, and that includes you. Now these are the defensive structures, but there is one more tool that you can use for defense, and it might very well be the most effective. That being terraforming. Because sure, you can make an impressive wall out of stone or black marble, but even that can be destroyed. However, you can also simply raise the ground or dig a moat around your base and create an almost vertical wall out of dirt. Now that's something that few enemies can overcome or even damage, and it doesn't really require much, mainly patience while digging and some stone to raise the ground. And that brings me to my next point, because when building defenses, well, when building anything in Valheim actually, you ultimately must decide for yourself what you want to create. Do you simply want the most effective and efficient base? Do you want the most beautiful base? Or how do you want to mix these two aspects? These don't always have to be contrary to one another, though I would generally say that a huge ditch around your base, as effective as it is, doesn't really look good. On the other hand, you could build the most ornate stone walls and they will work just fine. The whole thing will just need far more resources than a more simple wall, while not necessarily offering better protection. And hey, maybe you just don't want any defensive structures at all, since they don't fit in the style of build you are going for. There is no right or wrong here, it all depends on how you want to play the game and how you want your base to look like. And I guess also on what difficulty setting you are playing on. In the end, the game should be fun and not force you to do something one specific way. That's why this is more of an overview of the available tools and not a guide to the most meta defense. Not that I would be the right person to show you something like that anyways. And with that, this video is slowly coming to an end. I hope I could give you a quick overview of base defense possibilities in Valheim, and ideally you can take some useful knowledge with you. If you did, let me know, and if you did not find this helpful, let me know as well. The more feedback I get, the more I can improve future videos of this kind. And if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next video. Thanks for watching!